Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Reif. This is my master's project in the Geographic Information Systems Technology for the University of Arizona for fall 2023. My project is focused on precision agriculture through local raster spatial analysis for crop scouting. A little bit of introduction and background. Agriculture plays an important role in human and economic growth and sustainable development worldwide. The primary focus is on family farms for this study. The U.S. Department of Agriculture does a census every 10 years, and they provide a typology for all the farms in the U.S. 97% of all farms in the U.S. are categorized as small, and they primarily have a rich wisdom and of farming knowledge, because historically small farms are, they've been established over decades, right? And they're passed down from generation to generation. Traditionally, there are a lot of challenges in traditional farming, although there have been some leaps made in precision agriculture, especially as it comes to farming equipment and software. But overall, farming can be inefficient, unsustainable, and due to inflation, there are quite a bit of increased costs, especially when it comes to small farming. As I said, advancements in precision agriculture have provided a mechanism in which we can, inform efficient and effective farming moving forward, especially as it comes to GIS and remote sensing. Leveraging these technologies and data, we can improve crop yields and optimize resources for small farmers, especially when it comes to remote sensing and crop lifecycle management as it applies to multispectral imagery. It can be essential for disease and pest detection, critical in differentiating multiple conditions, as it applies to crop growth, health, and biomass. And these insights can be derived through the application of vegetation indices, specifically normalized differentiation vegetation index and normalized differentiation red edge index. So for this specific project, my study area was the East Virginia Agriculture Research and Extension Center out of Warsaw, Virginia. It is managed and owned by Virginia Tech. They manage approximately 28 fields at this research extension center, and they have approximately 5 different crop rotations. For this study, I tried to focus on one for the sake of practicality. Specifically wheat, although the EVA-REC does manage soybean, wheat cover, alfalfa, and corn. For my data sets, I leverage planet multispectral imagery, specifically from their PSB.SD sensor. It's relatively new, has a spectral resolution of 8 bands and a spatial resolution of approximately 3 meters. My data set encompassed a temporal resolution from January 2021 to November 2023. Here's a macro view of my actual methodology in an ArcGIS Pro model builder. Really, for this study, I tried to build the foundation of my actual analysis on multi-dimensional data set creation, management, and analysis. So for my methodology, Planet provides raster data pre-processing as a service, but I do highlight it in my actual study how they conduct radiometric calibration, orthorectification, and atmospheric correction to actually derive legitimate surface reflectance. But for my project, I focused on multidimensional data creation and management, specifically creating a multidimensional raster mosaic that was comprised of those 319 8-band multispectral rasters. Once I generated my raster data mosaic, I then produced multi-dimensional information. So what this involves is essentially building multi-dimensional info, time, and a variable, which I included surface reflectance for the specific project. And then I integrated field data. So the EVA rec provided me with hosted feature layers and feature classes of the specific fields and all the appropriate metadata and crop lifecycle information for those fields. So as a part of the methodology, I integrated those data sets along with my multi-dimensional raster mosaic to then conduct NDVI specifically, or raster spatial analysis, specifically NDVI calculations. Once I conducted my NDVI calculations, I established temporal profiles based on calendar year crop rotations for all the fields at the EVA rec. Now, for wheat specifically, their crop rotation each calendar year for wheat is from January to June. Once I established temporal profiles for those 3 years of the different fields, I then conducted statistical and diagnostic spatial analysis on those specific fields based off the temporal profiles. So now looking at my analysis and results, when you build a temporal profile, we can essentially establish a crop life cycle trend for whatever crop it is for that year. So in the top left, I essentially have the top right, I have a temporal profile of wheat for station block 5 for the year 2021. Next, I evaluated deviations in that NDVI temporal profile to inform further analysis. Specifically, I highlighted deviations on 8 May and 17 June. Further inspection of my multi-dimensional data set highlighted that there was cloud cover on 8 May, which can provide an anomaly in the actual NDVI profile. But for 17 June, the weather was clear, so I decided to do more inspection of that specific day. Further analysis, I calculated statistical measures across all wheat for that day, and specifically for station block 5. So I established mean and standard deviations of EVA rec wheat across 17 June and for station block 5. Although the temporal profile did indicate that there was a specific deviation in the actual life cycle trend for that day, also for station block 5 specifically. Now what we can do what I did was then now that I've identified deviations in the actual NDVI temporal profile across the crop life cycle trend and then focused on 17 June because that was an anomaly and an outlier, I then calculated a spectral profile for that specific day so I could identify outliers for that actual crop. Now, why this provides a benefit is because I can then calculate actual geometric accurate and precise locations for inspection for that crops on those days, provided by the outliers of the spectral profile. So some discussion points based off of the spectral profile that we can establish for crops conducting raster spatial analysis and the actual establishing temporal profiles for those crops, we can inform decision making on a daily basis. Once a historical crop life cycle pattern is established across multiple calendar years, Then we can start to capture, daily collect, leveraging commercial UAS and satellite multispectral imagery. Once we do that, we can provide daily insights to agronomists and farmers about overall health, crop health, and vegetation, specifically through geometrically accurate, precise vector data sets that can be provided to a service to that specific farming equipment. This will help inform decisive crop scouting work, especially when it comes to identifying mitigation efforts. A lot of times farmers apply broad mitigation efforts, especially when it comes to pest management, and also spraying things like fertilizer. Applying these practices can reduce overall expenses, improve yields of the actual crops, and it can also reduce environmental impacts. In conclusion, agriculture plays a vital role in human and economic development worldwide. Remote sensing and raster spatial analysis, they can play a vital role in the future of agriculture, especially as it comes to the ubiquity of sensors, platforms, and data. Really, farmers have broad access, especially small-scale farms have broad access to that data and information now. And we can apply vegetation indices to inform crop life cycle management, especially when we integrate field data with that actual raster spatial analysis. And current GIS technology can bring insight and decision-making to those agronomists and farmers. It can empower them with actionable insights, again, optimizing resources and mitigation efforts, enhancing yield, and also mitigating environmental impact. And it's technology where we can balance it with a rich farming heritage. I appreciate your time, and if there are any questions, be happy to answer them.